I've been fortunate to hear David speak at a number of events on his presidential theme that water is life. And I know David has spent a career in the water industry and is very passionate about how water impacts our lives and our livelihoods. So again, David, thank you for your service to the organisation. And just on my own behalf, I'm really honoured to take up this position with CIWEM. I've been a member of CIWEM going back a decade and more when I was a water engineer designing drainage systems. I always held the institution in very high regard, and I've enjoyed my time and am enjoying my time on the trustee board, and it's a great honour for me to be president because it means I get to speak for the next year on the theme that I've chosen as my presidential theme and to share my thoughts. And just before I move on to that, I want to thank the Republic of Ireland branch for hosting this event, and I want to give particular mention to Gordon Barry, the immediate past chair, and the work you put into and your dedication to the branch is very much appreciated. I want to thank UCC and Marai for hosting us, and I'm looking forward to hearing Professor Murphy this evening. And I want to welcome the members of the trustee board who travelled to Cork. So I hope you enjoy your stay here. And now I'd like to say a few words about the theme that I'm going to focus on for my term as president, which is how we can mobilise CIWEM's 10,000 members and the wider public to take action to tackle the climate emergency. So it's been quite a year for those of us who are passionate about and interested in climate change. And there have been some incremental steps along the way. So we've changed the language we use. We realised that a description like climate change doesn't convey the urgency that's required. So terms like global heating and terms like climate crisis, climate emergency are becoming mainstream language. And I think that's a valuable thing. But besides these incremental changes, there have been some step changes as well. And there's three highlights of the year that I want to call out, just the year gone by. And the first highlight for me was, I guess, opening the year, we saw the global youth speak out and make their voice heard in relation to climate change. And that was, I think, led very much so by the Swedish teenager, Greta Thunberg. And now we see the youth movement taking its place at the top table, not just at the UN, but the World Economic Forum. And in addition to that, we see the youth movement taking to the streets as well with their message, and it's having very significant impact. And that has really impressed me. The second highlight for me occurred in May of this year when the UK Parliament declared a climate emergency. And I was struck at the time, this was the first parliament in the world to make such a declaration. And the thought occurred to me that, in the 21st century, in the context of the climate crisis, this is what global leadership looks like. And I was very proud to see the Irish Parliament follow suit a month later and declare a climate emergency as well. And now, it is important that these declarations are backed up with actions, and we saw that in the UK. There was legislation enacted to achieve a net zero target by 2050. Now, this is very important. So, when we talk about the climate crisis, the only solution is to decarbonise our economies, and the only way to do that is with a net zero target. So that means we eliminate all anthropogenic carbon emissions from human activity. And if we can't eliminate them, then we just sequester that carbon out of the atmosphere. And whilst the Irish Parliament haven't followed up with legislation for that, they have brought out earlier on this year a climate action plan. So that was really positive movement. And the third highlight for me has been spoken about by a few of the speakers here this evening. It was CIWEM at its AGM in July declaring a climate and ecological emergency. And that included 7 pledges, one of which was, as an organisation, to target a net zero target for 2030. And so here you see what's happening at a national level, countries setting a net zero target. A similar approach being adopted by organisations, and quite often with more aggressive timeframes. And that's appropriate too. I think that's right. Professional institutions, especially in the environmental sector, need to be providing leadership in this sphere. So, the question then is, how can us, as environmentalists, be most effective in providing leadership? So, I believe the starting point has to be that the scientific argument is one. Okay, so we have a prestigious international organization with expertise in climate science, the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change. It's a UN body, a collaboration of thousands of scientists. And the IPCC, in its most recent report, the fifth assessment report published a few years back, concluded that, I'll give you the quote here, it's extremely likely, and that's between 95 and 100% probability, that human influence has been the dominant cause of observed warming since the mid-20th century. So, the root cause of the problem has been identified. Now, there is a rearguard action by some climate change deniers who obfuscate and challenge the scientific consensus, but I believe that to engage with that at this stage would be a distraction for environmentalists. So the scientific argument is one. Our policy now needs to be on shaping, or our focus needs to be on shaping the policy response. And that's, I think, taking us as engineers and scientists beyond our traditional focus area where we're comfortable in designing and implementing the technical solutions. Focusing on the policy response means we have a different role. We become change agents, advocating for change. And this, in its declaration, this is what CIWEM was promoting and empowering its members to do, to become champions and advocate for change. So, to do that, the first step is to increase public engagement. And to achieve this, the environmental professionals need to get smart on influencing techniques. And so the most important thing to note in this regard is that facts don't change people's minds. So people's beliefs and convictions, they come from the heart. And so we need to start by winning over people's hearts. And to do that, we need a whole different way of engagement. So we're going to need tools like storytelling. And I think Professor O'Shea gives a great example of that tonight. Talking about cows, talking about on Gortimore, the Great Famine, 170 years ago, is a way to bring home the message of the importance of sustainability with tangible examples that people can relate to. Because, for millennia, humans they've used storytelling to make sense out of life. So now we need a new story, a story for our time that's going to spur the public into action on this crisis. And this story has to be underpinned with an inspiring vision and a bold level of ambition. So the story that I want to tell is how the human race reverses global heating. And there's a very reassuring foundation underlying this story, which is that the technical solutions are there to achieve this. So I'm just going to give you some numbers to get a grasp on this. Okay, so in terms of carbon dioxide, we have globally emitted about 2,000 gigatons of carbon dioxide since the Industrial Revolution. Now, 2,000 isn't a huge number, so I know what you're thinking. Like, a gigaton must be a lot of carbon dioxide, and it is. It's a billion 10 to the power of 9 tons of carbon dioxide. It's what a large country or maybe a small continent would emit, and that's what we've emitted since the Industrial Revolution. If we keep on the path that we're going on, by 2050, we'll have emitted another 1,000 tons, gigatons of carbon dioxide. So that's going to put us way past the threshold. We're just at the threshold of what the atmosphere can absorb in terms of carbon dioxide. Just past the threshold, severe impact on temperature, and I think the consequences we know. The last few decades we've heard of the consequences. So that's the challenge then for us, is in order to achieve drawdown, and drawdown is in essence the reversal of global warming. It's described as the point in the future when the levels of greenhouse gases in the atmosphere stop climbing and steadily start to decline. To achieve drawdown, we need to take 1,000 gigatons of carbon dioxide out of the atmosphere. So in that context, just to mention a few of the solutions, at the top of the list is wind farms. So globally, wind farms have the potential to draw down 100 gigatons of carbon dioxide out of the atmosphere. Another solution that's a big hitter is solar farms. So the large-scale photovoltaic together with rooftop solar farms can reduce our emissions by 60 gigatons. And one more that Professor Murphy is going to be fond of is anaerobic digestion, a process to generate green gas, one of the many processes there. Anaerobic digestion alone can achieve a 10 gigaton reduction in our emissions. So I encourage you folks to take a look at drawdown and have a look at the top 80 solutions. There's a really rigorous bit of research behind this that maps out the story of how we can achieve that 1,000 gigaton reduction between now and 2050. And bear in mind 2050, that's the timescale that the global leaders in terms of tackling the climate crisis are talking about reaching net zero. So that's the good news, that the technology is there. What else do I want to say? Just a few words about CIWEM and our role in this, because what this will take is a holistic and a multidisciplinary approach. And this is something that CIWEM has always adopted and championed. So, CIWEM has a number of networks. These are communities of practitioners focused on climate change. We have the Climate Change Network. Another one is Art and the Environment, and we saw some of the work upstairs from that network with the Environmental Photographer of the Year work. And a third one, holistic network that we have is Faiths and the Environment. So, with this range of networks and with its ambition to aim for that net zero target by 2030, that's CIWEM stepping up and doing its bit. But it's not just institutions and organisations. Environmental professionals need to step up and provide leadership in tackling the climate crisis. And we need to adopt this broad approach and move outside our comfort zone of the technical domain. We're going to need new skills, including communication skills, so we can make our point clearly and effectively and simply. And we will need to collaborate with other disciplines from the humanities and the social sciences. And with this approach, I believe we can step up and play our role in achieving drawdown. Thank you.